Hey guys, thanks for stopping by to watch another video here at All I See Is W, where we talk about stocks, Bitcoin, and finance. In today's video, I'd like to cover the latest updates with Bitcoin. We'll go through technical analysis of Bitcoin along with the latest updates around the community, as well as going through technical analysis of strategy, updates with the big four Bitcoin miners, sharing with you also deep dive technical analysis, what my price predictions are of Mara, Riot, CleanSpark, and IREN. Now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Let's begin, guys. Let's first off start off with this post that the White House official just said Bitcoin and crypto is going to $20 trillion, dollars, where Bitcoin currently is over $2 trillion. Dollars. Gold is the only asset class that has over $20 trillion, dollars, but it's only a matter of time once Bitcoin will take that leap of faith and become the number one asset class going over $20 trillion. Dollars. There's so much market sentiment going on. The entire White House leadership embraces Bitcoin, and there is that directive towards, making Bitcoin and AI the powerhouse for the United States. Bitcoin News posts Bitcoin is on track to hit 200,000 in the coming months. What we see in the green line is the global M2 money supply. That's the total amount of money all around the world. And as we see M2 money supply going up, Bitcoin follows that. We've seen it follow since March, and it has a lag period of like 12 weeks. So definitely Bitcoin is expected to start running up as well as a positive correlated leading indicator with the global M2 money supply. Bitcoin News posts what a legend. So let's take a look back when Michael Saylor posted, 5 years ago. He's basically saying if you want to do your shareholders $100 billion favor, convert the Tesla balance sheet from USD to Bitcoin. Other firms on the S&P 500 will follow your lead, and in time it would grow to become 1 trillion favor. This was to Elon Musk, and guess what he asked? Are such large transactions even possible? Saylor responds, yes, I have purchased over 1.3 billion in Bitcoin in the past months and would be happy to share my playbook with you offline from one rocket scientist to another. So Saylor and Elon Musk had that communication. Had Elon take the orange pill, and that resulted in Elon buying Bitcoin, with a stack of 12,000 Bitcoins, holding on since 2020. Josh Mandel posts, now that we've qualified for index inclusion, he's referring to MSTR. I don't celebrate market cap anymore because it is not necessarily representative of performance, but rather it encourages blind tapping of share ATM once again without respect to MNAV. If the stock price appreciates because Bitcoin was bought with leverage and appreciates at a rate faster than 8 to 10% cost of funds, then I say I'm here for it. So this is, as a follow-up to Jeff Walton's post from Northstar. So strategy tracking day 337, MSTR now ranked 93rd largest US company by market cap, $112 billion, jumped one company, Nike, today, and one company this week, Digital Capital, now chasing analog devices. So, with analog devices that, rank 88, where strategy is right now, ranked 93, just bypassed Nike, Lockheed, Starbucks, you name it. MSTR, it's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when this company will, start running up the ranks and eventually will bypass the Mag 7 companies. Crypto Calio, DGen investor, he continues to post about Riot. What is he saying? Riot is close to up only mode. It's not even funny. So he's saying, anywhere buying in the green, this is free money. Why? Because July is going to be that month where we're going to have Riot squeeze up. He has that white drawing going all the way up to, $17. And he's a DGen. He's saying that Riot may even potentially squeeze like GameStop, similar to what we saw during COVID era 2020. He's saying that it may even go to 100 plus. So anything is possible. Not saying that it will be hitting $100, but very possible for it to get, I'm saying anywhere from like 20 to, $50 upside. Mark of the Beast, highly recommend following him. He posts Mara has over 5 billion worth of Bitcoin in their treasury. This is so bullish. $20 calls for September will print. I actually, got some calls for September as well. I do believe in the conviction play with September printing. With Mara now 50,000 Bitcoin in their treasury and they're targeting 57 exahash, just where they currently are with their hash rate, and they're going towards 75 exahash by year end. This is a big time testament, and they're also pivoting towards, AI sector as well. So Mara is the biggest, miner with the biggest hodl right now, and that equates to, $5 billion just holding on to 50,000 Bitcoins. And once we have Q2 earnings report, things are just going to blast off. I believe the stock price is going to front run because we haven't factored that in yet, just with the unrealized gains because of the accounting change. So overall, because there's just been heavy shorting with Mara, I do see that there's going to be a reversal, and we're already seeing that on the technicals, which I will cover. Chris posts CleanSpark is as set up as it has ever been for a HTF breakout. This is likely the big breakout too that sends it back to all-time highs into 2026. There probably won't be a lot of people along for the ride either, as most have capitulated in this sector, which makes it even more bullish. So what he's saying is that, it's going to start in July, which we've already seen that slight uptick, but it will continue to, gap up where he has this green zone 43 to $80. So anything is possible. We will see, as time progresses. IREN posts today, IREN stock price, even though the market closed early, IREN at one point during the day went up like 17%, and this was because of the news they announced. So IREN is pleased to announce the expansion of its AI cloud business, purchase of 2,400 NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs, B200, B300, fully funded from cash reserves, deploying at Prince George Data Center, increases total fleet to 4,300 NVIDIA GPUs, unlocks next-gen training and inference at scale, expecting strong risk-adjusted returns, supports opportunities across AI data center business. With IREN, they're expanding the AI cloud with NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs. We know NVIDIA stock is doing very well. So IREN, while they are mining and, expanding out their AI infrastructure, this is where all the money inflows are really going into right now. Taking a look at just technical analysis on the 30-minute chart, where current price is for Bitcoin, hovering, right below 110,000. Can you just believe it? We're a few, points away from all-time high, like maybe 1 or 2% away. Good thing is we're hovering above the Ichimoku cloud. I really do think July, we're going to have a nice run up where Bitcoin can run up to like 120,000, 130,000, or even more. So much upside with Bitcoin. OTC market, it's getting dry. The exchanges to buy Bitcoin, it's getting really, really scarce, and I think that there's just going to be a supply shock, and that will drive the price of Bitcoin up. But we're seeing nice consistent movement. We don't just see a linear fashion of it going up. There's been some uncertainty with the Trump Elon news where it dropped, and we had Middle East tension, it dropped, and we had a slight pullback just recently, but it's steadily climbing and hovering above 100,000 for many weeks now. So that's a good thing. Let's take a look at MSTR technical analysis. So we're looking at the overall performance from like 2018 all the way to like where it currently is 2025. We're just looking at the overall growth of Bitcoin as they became a Bitcoin treasury company, started to buy Bitcoin since 2020. We had, it run up from like $9 to 133, had a big consolidation period. 2022, it dropped all the way down, December 2022 to $13. But what has happened since? It's been just climbing, in this, higher highs, higher lows. we just see this in this parabolic phase. And I really do think that in the year 2025, we will continue to see MSTR trend up. The good thing is we're seeing the price action, more towards the right tail end of this channel. If it's on the left tail end, that means, you're hitting more towards that high point. But eventually, as we get towards the second half of the year, is the price is really gonna, be magnetized towards that left end of the trail of this, upper channel. So the key thing is just continuing to see, you know, price action move up, supporting this parabolic phase where I believe as Bitcoin gets to like 200,000, the year 2025, we may very well have MSTR, get into that 1,000 range, which I have that drawn in this top point of the yellow parabolic phase. And that's just in the near term of this year. As we scale out, 3, 4 years from now, I really do think that MSTR's market cap will continue to grow. There will go through reverse splits, and it will just continue to add shareholder value with the big time company like Strategy. Let's take a look at Mara's, technical analysis on the weekly. Key thing on the weekly is we're seeing a reversal pattern. I mean, look at November time. It was at $30. In fact, it hit $30 back in February 2024, $34 back in December 2023. So it has potential to reach, above that $30 range. Good thing is we've seen, a breakout from this bearish, MACD. We're seeing a reversal on the MACD crossing the 12 to 26 MACD relative strength. At one point on the daily, weekly, it was extremely oversold where RSI was like, 20 something. So that's the key indicator to tell you that we're going to start seeing reversals. We had the inverse head and shoulders. What are we seeing now? Mara is, showing signs of strength where it currently is at $17. I do think it's very cheap. In fact, I initiated some calls today for September as well. I really do see upside as we head into the later months. Definitely, we're going to be breaking out into that, that mid-tier $20 very soon in the month of July. I do foresee us getting back into that $30 range. The question is, will it happen this month or the following one? I do see huge upside with Mara where it can have a 3 to 5x potential from here on out. Let's take a look at Riot platforms on the monthly candle. So we're looking at it from a long-term view. But just back in 2017, we had that run up. It got up to like 40, close to $50. RSI peaked at like 81, extremely overbought. What happened, obviously, when you have RSI that high on the weekly, it starts getting sold off. People take profits. What happened with the last bull cycle? I mean, price just ran all the way up. It surged to like $83 from like $2. RSI at that time oversold 92. It had to cool off. It's been cooling off since. And, just with where we are right now on the monthly, RSI sitting at like 50, I'm really, thinking that we're going to have a prime breakout coming very soon. I mean, MACD's been just plateauing, but we're getting a lot more volume. There's more activity going on. Financial institutions are buying, and we may very well just have makers just send the price up where it may, I'm thinking somewhere around that, that 20 to, $50 range is very well achievable. But when you think about it, $12 or 20, that's like 1x from where it is right now. And then if it goes to 40, that's like 3x. So anything is possible. Callio's saying it could even go, over 100. So only time will tell, but just be on the lookout for this just based on the long-term technicals. Let's take a look at CleanSpark, technicals on the weekly. So, just key thing is, we saw that run up of CleanSpark, in the last bull cycle. It ran all the way up to like, close to $50. What has happened since? The bear market during 2022, it had a major pullback, got down to like $1, right? But now, CleanSpark has matured. It had a run up from like $3 to like $24 within a matter of weeks, 800% gain during that time, as we enter 2024 last year. We heard a lot of, price action with CleanSpark during that time. But since then, early 2024, it's been just bleeding out from this, this bull flag that's drawn out. Key thing is we're seeing a breakout. I mean, RSI during last time's run up, overbought at 80, but then now, RSI is just flirting around that, high 50, getting to 60, and now just, soon breaking out from that bull flag. I really do think that we're going to get back into that $20 range in the month of July, and we may very well have a squeeze up. This thing was like at 24 back in March, back in November, $18. So very well achievable, especially with, seeing companies like IREN, just having a major pop up. We're going to see increased demand for, the companies that haven't had, such a performance yet. Let's take a look at IREN stock. So IREN, when they had their IPO, a couple years ago, the price action, $27 dropped to like a dollar. But what have we seen since 2023? It's been just climbing up, higher highs, higher lows, but it still ascends in this channel. One of the key things I want to, bring up is, back in July of 2024, the stock price got up to like 1559 on the weekly. RSI was overbought, it got up to like 78. Once it got up to that 78, what happened? It had a pullback from like $15 to like $6. So it did, take a pullback 15 to like, support level $6. That's a major drop. One thing to keep in mind is, we had that bearish convergence, during that March, April, most miners got hit bad, but then we got close to that, 30 RSI oversold situation, $5. That was definitely a steal at that time during April. So from $5 to, where it currently is sitting at like 1682. In fact, today it was above, 17, but it had a slight pullback. One thing I want to just, call out is, let's say if you're in the green, I would really consider, just assessing whether you're a long-term investor or not. If you're a long-term investor, you believe in the company, great. This company's stock can just continue to shoot up. I mean, it may very well go to 20, but just based on the technicals, the fact that it's getting to that, 80 RSI, we're expecting a potential pullback. Not to say that it will happen, but if it does, just based on technicals, we may very well have, it retests like, you know, the even down to like $12. It may not go down to $12, but just based on, the RSI running up the last time, when it got up to 80, it had a pullback down to like, you know, um, 7. So I think, a pullback to like 14, 13, 12 is possible, but overall, all in all, long term, it will continue to trend up. Just with a short-term pullback is what I'm thinking that may very well play out. So just be on the lookout with that. So I hope you enjoyed this video where I covered Bitcoin analysis, MicroStrategy, stock price, and the big four Bitcoin miners. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your predictions. I'll talk to you on the next one. Thanks for watching.